Hello and welcome to Millennium News Hour. I am Tanziba Nawreen. In today's bulletin, we will present top and trending news from across the nation and the world. Let's begin with the headlines of the day. Tornadoes kill 3 in central US. SpaceX's Starship rocket explodes after launch. Climate tension, UN chief chides Biden, other world leaders. Appeals court holds House interview with ex-Trump prosecutor. House approves trans athlete ban for girls and women's teams. Yellen calls for better US-China relation as tensions rise. Nevada Senate advances bill preserving abortion protections. North Dakota governor signs law limiting trans health care. Muslims end Ramadan, begin holiday amid war, reconciliation. Awesome solar eclipse wows viewers in Australia, Indonesia. UNICEF says 12.7 million children in Africa missed vaccinations. T-Rex skeleton sells for more than 5 million at Zurich auction. K-pop star Moonbin found dead at home. Nadal out of Madrid Open after slow recovery from hip injury. Juventus up to third after 15-point penalty suspended. And D-backs designate 4-time All-Star Bumgarner for assignment. You were listening to headlines, now news in detail. Strong storms with tornadoes that plowed across the central US killed at least 3 people in Oklahoma and left thousands without power Thursday, as forecasters warned of potentially more severe weather to come. Authorities were still unsure of the full scale of injuries and destruction in Oklahoma, where storms flattened homes and turned over 18-wheelers. Employees of a pizza restaurant said they took shelter in the walk-in freezer, and when they emerged, portions of the roof and shattered windows littered the parking lot. There are definitely dozens of various injuries, from minor all the way up to fatalities, said Deputy Sheriff Scott Gibbons of McLean County, south of Oklahoma City. Deadly storms this spring have killed dozens of people across a wide swath of country. 2 of the deaths in Oklahoma were in the small town of Cole. A third person who was injured by the tornado has also died, authorities said, but it was not clear where the person was injured. Officials said the twister also devastated Shawnee. SpaceX's massive Starship has launched but failed to make orbit. The stainless steel space vessel, composed of a spacecraft sitting atop the so-called Super Heavy booster rocket, took off from the launch site at Boca Chica, Texas, in the US on Thursday morning. At least 5 of its 33 Raptor engines did not appear to fire upon liftoff, said Stephen Clark with spaceflightnow.com. The rocket cleared the launch tower and headed into the sky. However, the spacecraft failed to separate from the Super Heavy booster, with the entire vessel spinning before falling apart in what is technically called a rapid unscheduled disassembly. The behemoth launching system was 120 meters tall, higher than New York City's Statue of Liberty. Its successful takeoff represents a step forward in United States space travel, with the company foreseeing the vessel as a key link in a manned mission one day reaching Mars. The liftoff sets a record for the largest rocket ever to be launched. SpaceX CEO Elon Musk had said in March that the chances the rocket would reach orbit were about 50%. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres bluntly challenged the climate efforts of President Joe Biden and other world leaders Thursday in a message for a White House summit, charging that expanded oil and gas drilling and other policies of the richest countries amount to a death sentence for the planet. The warning marked a public rebuke from the UN's highest official of what he described as the major emitters of gases from burning fossil fuels that are heating the planet. The challenge, recorded by Guterres in a video for the White House Virtual Climate Summit, came as Russia's war in Ukraine and other threats to the world's short-term oil and gas supply are leading the US and some other nations to up production of their own climate-damaging oil, natural gas, and coal for fuel. Biden opened the summit recounting his administration's billions of dollars in climate efforts and by announcing $1 billion in new climate finance for developing nations as well as other new programs. In the US and elsewhere, however, the renewed embrace of fossil fuel is creating conflicts with the climate efforts, plans, and promises. Geopolitical divisions must not torpedo the world's climate fight, Guterres warned in his video. Yet many countries are expanding capacity, and I urge you to change course, said Guterres, whose calls for an immediate stop to new oil and gas drilling have sharpened since a dire report from a panel of global experts last month indicated the world is heading rapidly toward more disastrous levels of warming. The White House did not immediately respond to a question whether Guterres' video was viewed by Biden and others attending. A federal appeals court has temporarily blocked House Republicans from questioning a former Manhattan prosecutor about the criminal case against ex-President Donald Trump, the latest twist in a legal battle between Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's office and the House Judiciary Committee. The Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals issued an administrative stay late Wednesday, hours after a lower court judge ruled there was no legal basis to block the Judiciary Committee's subpoena to former prosecutor Mark Pomerantz. Committee Chair Representative Jim Jordan, an Ohio Republican, had sought to question him Thursday. In issuing the stay, Judge Beth Robinson noted that her order reflects no judgment regarding the merits of the case. A three-judge panel will ultimately weigh whether to uphold or overturn the lower court's decision. Robinson, a Biden appointee, set an aggressive briefing schedule, ordering Bragg's office to file court papers detailing its appeal by Friday and for the Judiciary Committee to submit its response by Saturday. Bragg's office appealed to the Second Circuit hours after U.S. District Judge Mary Kay Viscochil rejected his request for a temporary restraining order, ruling Wednesday that Jordan had a valid legislative purpose in issuing the subpoena. Transgender athletes whose biological sex assigned at birth was male would be barred from competing on girls' or women's sports teams at federally supported schools and colleges under legislation pushed through Thursday by House Republicans checking off another high-profile item on their social agenda. The bill, approved by a 219-203 party-line vote, is unlikely to advance further because the Democratic-led Senate will not support it, and the White House said President Joe Biden would veto it. Supporters say the legislation, which would put violators at risk of losing taxpayer dollars, is necessary to ensure competitive fairness. They framed the vote as supporting female athletes disadvantaged by having to compete against those whose gender identity does not match their sex assigned at birth. Opponents criticized the bill as ostracizing an already vulnerable group merely for political gain. The House action comes as at least 20 other states have imposed similar limits on trans athletes at the K-12 or collegiate level. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said Thursday that the US and China can and need to find a way to live together in spite of their strained relations, which have worsened in recent months. In his speech at Johns Hopkins University's School of Advanced International Studies in Washington, Yellen called for cooperation on the urgent global challenges of our day between the countries for the sake of maintaining global stability, while supporting economic restrictions on China to advance US national security interests. She called out China's business and human rights abuses in Xinjiang, Hong Kong, and Tibet while striking a conciliatory tone about how there is a future in which both countries share in and drive global economic progress. We seek a healthy economic relationship with China, one that fosters growth and innovation in both countries, Yellen said. Relations between the two countries have become increasingly strained after the discovery of a Chinese surveillance balloon in US airspace and since the communist nation has grown its ties with Russia despite its continued invasion into Ukraine. The Nevada State Senate approved a bill Wednesday that would strengthen existing protections for out-of-state abortion patients and in-state providers from outside prosecution and penalties as Democratic leadership vows to make the Western swing state a safe haven for abortion patients. A spokesperson for Republican Governor Joe Lombardo indicated that Lombardo could sign the bill as written. Lombardo, who describes himself as pro-life and cites his Catholic faith, has said he would respect the will of voters who codified abortion rights up to 24 weeks in a 1990 referendum vote. He was the only Republican to defeat a state Democratic incumbent in the last election. The Senate voted 15-6 in favor of the bill Wednesday, with Republicans Kerry Buck and Minority Leader Heidi Severs joining Democratic support for the bill. In a tweet following the vote, the Nevada Republican Party said it was horrified that the two Republicans voted for the measure. It now heads to the state assembly, where Democrats hold a supermajority. North Dakota's Republican Governor Doug Burgum signed a bill into law that restricts transgender health care in the state, immediately making it a crime to give gender-affirming care to people younger than 18. Gender-affirming care for minors has been available in the U.S. for more than a decade and is endorsed by major medical associations, but it has increasingly come under attack in many conservative legislatures, including North Dakota's, where lawmakers have passed at least 3 anti-trans bills this year. The measure that Burgum signed Wednesday received veto-proof support from GOP lawmakers, though some Republicans did vote against it, alongside all Democrats. In a statement released Thursday morning, Burgum said the law is aimed at protecting children from the life-altering ramifications of gender reassignment surgeries, but he added that medical professionals have testified these surgeries have not been and are not being performed on minors in North Dakota. He said the law still allows medication treatment for early onset puberty and other rare circumstances with parental consent, and minors currently receiving gender-affirming care will still be able to receive treatment. Now it's time for global updates. Large parts of the Muslim world marked the end of the fasting month of Ramadan at sundown Thursday and ushered in the holiday of Eid al-Fitr. But the festivities were overshadowed by raging battles for control of Sudan and a deadly stampede in Yemen. In other parts of the region, the holiday came against the backdrop of reconciliation and rapprochement between former rivals. The Islamic calendar is lunar and depends on the sighting of the moon, something Muslim religious authorities tend to disagree on. Ramadan sees worshippers fasting daily from dawn to sunset, ending with Eid al-Fitr celebrations. This year again, the holiday comes amid fighting and devastation, particularly in the Middle East. In Sudan, the holiday was eclipsed by raging battles between the army and its rival paramilitary force, despite two attempted ceasefires. The fighting since Saturday has killed hundreds of people and wounded thousands. In Yemen, the Arab world's most impoverished nation, a stampede late Wednesday at a charitable event in the rebel-held capital of Sana'a killed at least 78 people and injured 77. Religious authorities in both Sudan and Yemen said they will mark the start of Eid al-Fitr on Friday. Under a cloudless sky, 20,000 eclipse chasers crowded a tiny outpost to watch a rare solar eclipse plunge part of Australia's northwest coast into brief midday darkness Thursday, while temporarily cooling the tropical heat. The remote tourist town of Exmouth, with fewer than 3,000 residents, was promoted as one of the best vantage points in Australia to see the eclipse that also crossed remote parts of Indonesia and East Timor. An international crowd had been gathering for days, camping in tents and trailers on a red, dusty plain on the edge of town with cameras and other viewing equipment pointed skyward. NASA astronomer Henry Thorpe was among those at Exmouth cheering loudly in the darkness. Isn't it incredible? This is so fantastic. It was mind-blowing. It was so sharp and it was so bright. You could see the corona around the sun there, the visibly excited Washington resident said. People cheered as the sun and moon reached maximum eclipse. The hybrid solar eclipse tracked from the Indian Ocean to the Pacific Ocean and was mostly over water. The lucky few people in its path either saw the darkness of a total eclipse or a ring of fire as the sun peeked from behind the new moon. Such celestial events happen about once every decade. The last one was in 2013 and the next one isn't until 2031. They occur when Earth is in the sweet spot, so the moon and the sun are almost the exact same size in the sky, said NASA solar expert Michael Kirk. At some points, the moon is a little closer and blocks out the sun in a total eclipse. But when the moon is a little further away, it lets some of the sun's light peek out in an annular eclipse. Nearly 13 million children missed one or more vaccinations in Africa between 2019 and 2021 because of the disruptive impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, leaving the continent vulnerable to even more outbreaks of disease and facing a child survival crisis, a new report from UNICEF said Thursday. Amid a global backslide in childhood immunization over those 3 years, which the United Nations Children's Fund said is the worst regression for childhood vaccinations in 30 years, Africa is the region with the highest number of unvaccinated and under-vaccinated children. UNICEF said that 12.7 million African children missed one or more vaccinations and 8.7 million didn't receive a single dose of any vaccine from 2019 to 21. The report, The State of the World Children 2023, confirms previous indications and lays out more data showing that the pandemic interrupted childhood vaccination almost everywhere, UNICEF said. Half of the 20 countries in the world with the largest number of children without any vaccinations, referred to as zero-dose children, are in Africa, UNICEF said. In Nigeria, 2.2 million children have never received a vaccination. In Ethiopia, 1.1 million are unvaccinated against diseases. Nearly 300 Tyrannosaurus rex bones that were dug up from 3 sites in the United States and assembled into a single skeleton sold Tuesday at an auction in Switzerland for 4.8 million francs, below the expected price. Crafted into an open-mouth pose, the T-Rex skeleton measuring 11.6 meters long and 3.9 meters high, came in under the anticipated range of 5 million to 8 million francs when it went under the hammer at the Kohler auction house in Zurich. Kohler had said Tuesday's sale would be the first time such a T-Rex skeleton would go up for auction in Europe. The composite skeleton, featuring 293 bones, was a showpiece of an auction that featured some 70 lots, and the skull was set up next to the auctioneer's podium throughout. It could be that it was a composite. That could be why the purists didn't go for it. Carl Green, the auction house's marketing director, said by phone, "It's a fair price for the dino. I hope it's going to be shown somewhere in public." Green did not identify the buyer but said it was a European private collector. Including the buyer's premium and fees, the sale came to 5.5 million Swiss francs, Kohler said. Moonbin, a singer from South Korean boy band Astro, was found dead at his home in Seoul, his management agency said Thursday. The 25-year-old was reportedly found by his manager, who went to the singer's home Wednesday evening because he wasn't responding to contacts. Police are investigating his death but have so far found no signs of foul play, according to South Korea's Yonhap news agency. Officials at Seoul's Gangnam District Police Station did not respond to calls for comment. Moonbin's management agency, Fantague, confirmed his death in a statement, saying that he suddenly left us and became a star in the sky, and that fellow artists and company staff were mourning him with very deep sadness and shock. Fantague said Moonbin's funeral will be held as quietly as possible, with the attendance mostly limited to family, close friends and colleagues, based on the wishes of his relatives. Moonbin began his music career in 2016 as a member of the six-member boy band Astro, which debuted shortly after the singers appeared in a TV reality show. The group quickly found success in South Korea and Japan and was listed on Billboard's top 10 list of new Korean pop groups that year, with the magazine praising them for their bright synth-pop sound that won over Korean pop lovers from around the world. Now it's time for business news. Today's New York stock close price is 15,582.94. The NYSE Composite is decreased by 70.68 points or 0.45%. Tokyo stock close price is 28,657.57. The Nikkei 225 index is increased by 50.81 points or 0.18%. Shanghai stock close price is 3,367.031. The Shanghai Composite Index is decreased by 3.10 points or 0.09%. Hong Kong stock close price is 20,396.97. The Hang Seng Index is increased by 29.21 points or 0.14%. Bombay stock close price is 59,632.35. The Sensex index is increased by 64.55 points or 0.11%. Let's have a look on today's sports stories. Rafael Nadal will miss the Madrid Open next week because his recovery from a hip injury is going much slower than expected. The 22-time Grand Slam winner has been sidelined since January by a left hip flexure injury he picked up at the Australian Open. The issue has kept him from the Indian Wells, Miami, Monte Carlo and Barcelona tournaments so far. The Madrid Open, he has won 5 times starts on Monday. This injury was supposed to keep me out 6 to 8 weeks, but I have been out 14, Nadal said in Spanish in a message on Instagram on Thursday. We have followed all the medical advice, but my recovery has not gone as they said it would. And now we find ourselves in a difficult situation. The 36-year-old Nadal did not mention his prospects for being fit for the French Open starting on May 28. Juventus had a 15-point penalty suspended on Thursday, lifting the storied Italian team up to third in Serie A and right in the mix for a spot in next season's Champions League. Following a 3-hour hearing the previous day, the case has now been referred back to the Soccer Federation's appeals court, and Juventus has been handed back the points pending the new trial that is unlikely to conclude before the end of the season, and so any penalty would be for the following campaign. Juventus moved from 7th in the league to 3rd, 2 points behind second place Lazio and 3 ahead of 4th place Roma in a tight battle for the Champions League qualifying places. Defending champion AC Milan was dumped out of the top 4 and was 2 points ahead of Inter Milan. The Milan teams meet in the Champions League semi-finals next month. The Arizona Diamondbacks have designated 4-time All-Star Madison Bumgarner for assignment following his latest shaky start. The move takes Bumgarner off the team's 40-man roster and leaves Arizona 7 days to trade the 2014 World Series MVP or else place him on outright waivers. The Diamondbacks announced the move Thursday, a day after Bumgarner allowed 7 runs in 3 innings against the St. Louis Cardinals. The big left-hander hasn't lived up to expectations in the desert since signing a 5-year, $85 million deal in 2020. A postseason hero for San Francisco, he has gone 15-32 with a 5.23 ERA in 69 starts and is having his worst season with Arizona. The 33-year-old has allowed at least 5 runs in 3 of his 4 starts and dropped to 1-3 with a 10.26 ERA after his latest blow-up in St. Louis. I wish I had some kind of answers, Bumgarner said after Wednesday's game. Not that I'm not going look for them, I'm going to look for them, but right now I don't have any for you guys. I wish I did, but I don't. Bumgarner is owed roughly $34.4 million on the remainder of his contract, including $20.4 million this season. If he clears waivers, he would be cleared to sign with any team for a prorated share of the league minimum of $720,000. Let's have a look on today's weather forecast. That's all in today's news. Keep watching Millennium News 24 for latest update. Millennium TV US and Millennium News 24 network is transmitted and available to be watched free for all at TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV and Apple TV. And also in all European countries and Australia available with the Sky Network, Worldwide Jago TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago BD Network and Horizon Satellite globally. Stay connected with us for all types of informative and entertainment program. Thank you.